hug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like you Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Deputy cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. Revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension fund. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. We are live. This is PrimerTime. My name is Michael.
My name is Nicholas, and this is the end of summer edition of PrimerTime. Labor Day has come and gone.
Labor Day is you are now allowed to wear white, I think.
No, I think you're not allowed to wear white.
I'm not sure. I'm not up to date on my rules of etiquette.
Yeah, I don't think I even have white, but yeah.
I own several T-shirts.
Hanes is always in style.
Hanes, you can wear Hanes after Labor Day. Yeah, it looks like we've got an interesting lineup of stories we're going to look at tonight, and then we've also kind of just got some interesting movements in the country, and this, of course, concerns gun owners.
Sure does. And I'd like to start us off tonight by giving a big shout out to New York City's finest and their absolute disgraceful display of marksmanship. A couple days ago, they were attempting to subdue a for lack of better terms, a criminal, and they went ahead and fired 84 rounds at the suspect, only hitting him once in the calf. So once out of 84 times would indicate to me that there is a problem in their marksmanship training department.
Okay, so we're going to figure that NYPD is carrying 40 caliber Glocks. Is that correct?
Yeah, they could be throwing shotgun rounds for that.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is how many rounds. You're going to figure out maybe 15, 16 rounds per magazine, and 84 rounds. That comes out to be what, 7.5 magazines?
Yeah,
that's 5.5 magazines.
That's no bueno any way you slice it for my Spanish-speaking friends.
I mean, 5.5 magazines. You got one hit in the extremity. A lot of people would like to blame this on what they call the New York trigger, which is an item that Glock provides in its blue line sales, which are its law enforcement and public safety sales. New York has a requirement for a 12.5-pound trigger. Now, a Glock that a consumer would purchase, or another police department or anybody else would purchase, becomes standard from the factory with a 5.5-pound trigger. So a lot of people would like to blame this marksmanship display on the trigger, but not 83 times.
Well, the assailant in this I don't even know how you would describe this. I mean, aside from being just...
You would describe it as the Matrix, like he was like Neo.
This guy has to be. His name is Gerald Harris, 27-year-old. and it was in Bushwick. So, for those of you that are familiar with New York City and its environs, was being pursued because he had opened fire with a stolen .45 caliber pistol, and that pistol happened to be a Taurus. So, then the story goes to correct itself and say that it's a .40 caliber Taurus Millennium.
Okay, 40 caliber Taurus Millennium on the used market, those would go for probably about $300. And so I'm in my area, so I'm guessing in New York that's probably a $900 handgun.
Well, not only that, think about how much ammunition was used by the police department in that arrest, and you probably came on a couple $100 with 84 rounds of .40 caliber pistol, ammo being shot at this one guy, and not only that, but only hitting once in the calf.
That is probably about a $100 expenditure if you consider the price of what would be considered defense ammo that a police officer would use. They'll cops use hollow points. They don't use the full metal jacketed stuff. They want to put a hurt on you when they shoot you. So they use the expensive ammo. And I'm guessing it at $150, $125 a round.
Yeah, and not only that, but looking at the image of the crime scene. They have nearly an entire city intersection blocked off with yellow tape, and that's a pretty large crime scene.
Well, I mean, like if you figure that the crime scene, they have to go from where each like bullet impact is found, and if you've got 83 strays, when you got 83 strays, you're not all keeping them like in the black.
Well, but see, this is the thing. I don't think you can consider those 83 aim shots as strays. These are guys who are marginally trained at firearms at best, but they have some kind of training. And I would shudder to think that anybody in New York City feels any safer with those cops walking the beat than probably themselves with their own method of self-defense.
Well, that kind of brings us to an interesting story. It looks like in Connecticut there's quite a large number of assault rifle, quote-unquote, evil black rifle owners. And looks like the Greenwich Times is trying to push this as we need to out these people. We need to,
Yeah, this is reminiscent of something that happened in New York very shortly after they passed the SAFE Act, where one of the news agencies went ahead and published the list of the pistol permit owners in New York. So that's this is one of those things that we've got to break down in society if this is what we're trying to do, trying to out our neighbors. Well, it's very 1930s Germany.
Well, this is I wouldn't compare it to Germany. I would compare it more to like a Bolshevik takeover personally. But what the article is complete trash. I mean, it's really kind of tough to read, and it gives some just outrageous statistics.
Dazzling with statistics, and they
right.
Yes,
and
they had to hit him in the face.
It starts off with someone in Connecticut owns 179 assault rifles, but if he's your neighbor, you may never know. Well, what is he going to do? Like pick up all 179 of them at once and like walk into a shopping mall?
Well, but yeah, when you finish reading that same sentence, he had to make sure that he threw in the little dig that these are the same kind that can fire 30 rounds in 15 seconds, just like the gun.
Right, and the very next sentence, and then a third firearms enthusiast keeps nearly 544,000 high-capacity magazines.
So what I want to know is if those are standard capacity magazines, or are those actually high-cap magazines?
Well, shit, man, he's got more than 500,000 of them. He's probably got a little of everything.
I'm sure he's got. I'm sure he's got an eBay store too.
That would kind of make sense. It almost makes sense that a guy with 500,000 magazines is a retailer and not a pleasure shooter. I mean, let's just physically think about it. I mean, how much room let's just say they're just standard AR-15 magazines, which is the dreaded high capacity magazine usually.
That's what it's billed as, even though it's a standard capacity magazine.
So I mean, really, this is like what he can fire 15 million rounds in in a half a second now.
Well,
Is that what they're really? Oh,
we need to go back
I
to
mean,
the California Assemblyman to give us his definition of what a ghost gun is.
it's it's going to have that thing, the shoulder thing that goes
Yeah,
up.
the shoulder thing that goes up.
Barrel strap.
So
The
yeah,
barrel strap.
it's interesting though. You know, one of these things that I've really noticed, and I'm talking to a good friend of the show, Oddball. He's been on a couple times. Talking to him and just really taking a look at the journalistic standards that are being used to describe anything that has to do with guns, whether it's something that involves a pistol. You always have to put in there that it's a semi-automatic. Probably even if a revolver was being used, but I think the AP style guide says you have to use semi-automatic.
And it doesn't matter if it's I love it when they say it's a 38 Magnum or it's a 40 millimeter bullet. Either of those two crack me up.
Yeah. If you're firing 40 millimeter bullets, the Army's starting to look for their grenades.
Yeah, really.
So. Had at least a genuine response when she was asked why there wasn't any in. She just flat out said, "Old guys, 7:30 Tuesdays and Thursdays."
Yeah, well, that's a little bit different than here. Walmart, of course, is still the same situation, but at the big box sporting goods stores, they've got a goodly supply. And I've got a friend who hadn't actually seen 22 in a store in a long time and was able to buy, his 2 packs of mini mags, they're 100-round packs. And he went outside and changed clothes and came back in and bought 2 more and went back outside and changed clothes again and bought 2 more.
Yeah.
So he was really excited. He's a shooter. He's gonna use them. I don't think he's gonna flip them. But I mean, the ammunition is in the pipeline. It's coming back. I don't think there's any reason to pay outrageous private sale prices.
I think that, like I said, there's deals out there that can be had. I did receive a mailer, email advertisement that had 5.56 ammo down to 33 cents a round. I think that's probably, it's not super great, but that's probably a standard price right now.
Well, I've seen 22. I think the cheapest you're going to find is about 4.5 cents a round, and that's pretty much consistent with what it was. Maybe plus, maybe plus 10%, 15%.
Well, yeah, and that's what you got to figure too. Is we are the new normal. I think we're somewhere between 7 and 8 cents a round on 22, and then you got to go in and figure all the overhead costs that gets plugged into that price. Whether it's the fuel, whether it's the shipping that stuff cross country, whatever the case may be. People are not going to lose money as a retailer. They're not going to lose money getting 22 out the door because it just sells so quickly.
Yeah, that is a moving item. In other deals of the week, Palmetto State Armory has a ripping deal right now. For $299, you get a slick side 1-in-9 twist 16-inch rifle kit. Now a slick minus the receiver. Now you can pick up a receiver for about $30 or $40.
You're talking
about right?
Hold on.
So the lower receiver.
Yeah, so the lower receiver, if you're going to pick it up stripped, you're going to come in somewhere between $39 and $50, and that's going to have to go to an FFL. So everything else above that, below that, lower receiver, that's all just parts, and you don't require an FFL. But if you're getting that slick side, you're missing out on what's called the forward assist or the dust cover.
The forward assist is also known as the get stuck harder button.
Yeah, feed properly device.
It's forward assist in the AR-15 series. Actually, when the bullet enters the chamber, it just gives it a little bump to make sure that it fits right into that chamber perfectly. And a lot of people who are not trained on the AR-15, like if they've just bought one, and they'll go out and take it, and they'll shoot it to where they start getting misfeeds, and they'll get a click, and first thing they do is hit that forward assist. Right, and for the plinker, I think the forward assist is kind of a redundant item. It's like maybe I think it's a cost saving measure to eliminate it. That really doesn't affect the function of the rifle. But that's not necessarily a combat rifle.
Right. So the reason that you'll even have those to begin with is that M4s and M forgeries, as they go nowadays, they have an extension on the barrel that has something called a feed ramp. And out of this, what we call the star cluster or the star chamber, there's two indentations that are cut either side of 6 o'clock. And what that allows is that when a round is being lifted from the magazine as it sits on the follower, when that bolt brings that round forward, it's going to catch one of those two feed ramps, depending upon which side of the magazine that round is sitting in. And then that tip of that next round will catch that feed ramp, and that will help guide it up into the chamber properly, so that way when the bolt rides forward, it can lock and be in battery.
And for the average shooter, that's not necessarily a completely needed feature, is it?
Well, it depends upon what you're shooting. With anything that uses the box magazines, you're gonna want to have something that allows that to sit feed properly. On a bolt action, that's not an issue, because typically those are magazines that feed in a single file fashion. The subsequent rounds are going to fit and seat exactly where the previous round went. That's not so with these box magazines that have rounds on either side. Sometimes there's a little variation of how those actually get in there, and that can take into some factors like whether the lead nose is molested in some kind of way, whether there's a gouge in it that prevents it from catching, or that soft lead, that stuff gets it gets banged around, it gets dinged. Soldiers are famous for slapping magazines on their helmets prior to seating the magazine in the magazine well. Lots of different factors. But for the average sports shooter, when it comes to an AR, I would say you probably do want to have the forward assist, because that's part of your immediate action to clear a stoppage or a failure to fire. But then what I would say is not necessarily a must-have is the dust cover, what we call the ejection port cover.
Right. Now, but if you take off those two and you're coming in under $400 in your time, $379, $389, plus your shipping and your time to put together an AR-15, that's a pretty good deal right there.
Well, it is, and like I said, it's not only that. You're going to have to figure in the cost of the FFL transfer fee and any state fee that you may have to do your criminal background check. My state charges $2. Fortunately for me, I have an FFL here that loves military guys and is willing to just charge me the state fee. So you got to figure in an extra $25 to $30 based on wherever you live, in addition to whatever the price is that the parts are costing you.
It's really not a bad deal. Something to look at, and probably the best deal on an AR-15 that I've seen in easy 3 years.
Well, that's something that like I said last week, brought up the fact that a bunch of these dealers are now starting to show up with the strip lowers between $39 and $50. I've seen them $39. I've seen them $49. It's a strip lower is a strip lower. They're all usually anodized, 70, 75 it's all the same, it's all the same grade stuff. Where you're going to see a lot of the differences is where you're going to start seeing people wanting to use polymer versus the aluminum or the forged steel.
And I'm not really necessarily a fan of polymer receivers for a rifle cartridge.
Yeah, certainly not. I definitely am not.
I think a polymer receiver is fine for a 22 or maybe even a pistol caliber cartridge, but not in the AR-15.
Yeah, no, that's burning pretty hot. And not only that, as things wear down, those things are getting subjected to pretty high temperatures and pressures. One of the first things to go on those ARs is probably going to be your bolt carrier, your gas rings on the bolt itself. That's where you're gonna start to see some stuff like right up and around where the gas key is, which for folks that may just have an AR in front of them, your gas key sits on the bolt and the bolt carrier, and it's kind of like a hockey stick that's in the shape, and it's kind of attached by just a ball peen hammer has it in there staked, and that's the term. It's staked. But it's kind of like a hex nut or something like that. Haven't really broken them down. Just got to use them all the time. And you'll see at the base of those staked gas keys, you'll see discoloration, and that's going to be indicative of some gases that are escaping, and that can lead to failures.
Well, there's a pretty interesting story kind of relating to AR-15 endurance from the firearms blog, and it really kind of, it's from a gun range in Vegas called Battlefield Las Vegas, and they rent full auto, and you buy your ammo from them, you give them a lot of money, and you can rent pretty much whatever you want to rent there. And it says here the M4s have about 200,000 rounds downrange. Parts have been replaced. AKs get to about 100,000 rounds, and the rails will crack. They can be easily welded, but they do crack. They have yet to lose an upper or lower receiver from cracking for an AR-15. They get about 20,000 rounds out of the bolt before they start experiencing issues. Gas tubes will rot away at the block for at about a year. Charging handles stretch out. Hammer and pins and disconnectors usually break after about 5,000 rounds. So, these are tools. Parts break on tools. It's no different than if you own a tractor or a pickup truck you use for work. It takes a little bit of maintenance and an eye for tolerance, and
Well, that's the thing. That's why we hit on the preventive maintenance so much. That's why we hit on the I guess you could call it service intervals. We use it in the armed forces. We'll have teams from Red River Army Depot. They'll come out and actually gauge our rifles just to make sure that they're within tolerance, whether they're using field gauges or they're actually using armorer's gauges to make sure that the weapon is within tolerance, within limits. Anything that isn't usually gets a workover in the field. Things that can be replaced are replaced. Sometimes they do have to go back for depot level maintenance, and that involves a complete teardown and reassembly. So, just like we're saying, you can have parts that you get with it, shoot to your heart's content, but when you start noticing a decrease in performance, that's the way the system is designed. It's designed to let you know, just like the brakes on your car, as soon as you start hearing the squealing and you start feeling the grabbing, you're going to notice that, hey, maybe it's time to change those brakes. You're going to see the same thing with the AR series, whether it's you got to replace the bolt, whether you got to replace the bolt carrier, whether you need to get a different buffer, things like that.
You tailor the rifle to the situation that it's going to be used in.
Yeah,
Is that
certainly.
correct?
Certainly, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people like the AR series, because it sometimes, I know you call it the Hello Kitty of everything. You can customize it to your heart's content, but you really can, instead of customizing it, I would say that you can tailor it to your needs.
All right. So does the military take any sort of special precaution for firing pins and things that receive repeated shock for troops that are stationed in cold areas.
Yeah, certainly. And one of the things that is, say, like for soldiers that are stationed in Alaska, cold weather climates, they use a different type of lubricant that is resistant to the cold. Things that tend to react very poorly with weather, such as soft steel. Those things are taken out, tested, and if it's not within normal limits, they're replaced. You figure a firing pin.
They don't have like a special Alaska grade firing pin.
No.
Okay.
But they certainly do have cold weather cleaner lubricant and protector.
Right. Because, liberal tears will just freeze.
Yeah, just like the politicians do. Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of politicians, got some interesting news that comes out of the Telegraph, UK. Now we're in our, kind of the rundown to our election season. 16 months away, and we've got quite an expansive field of Republican candidates out there, and one of the more well-known candidates, and some say maybe the heir, part of the dynasty for sure, is Jeb Bush. But it was recently revealed that Jeb Bush does not own a firearm.
Yeah, and why would he need to?
Well, I think that's pretty interesting. A man of the people, doesn't have to take his own personal safety into account. He's really not kind of what he says. So yeah, maybe he is the prince.
Yeah. Well, he does have the A+ NRA rating. So, that kind of tells you right there that the NRA is not the organization that it purports itself to be.
Right. So amongst the candidates that do own guns, Donald Trump is known to own a pistol, and I would assume it to be a Desert Eagle, because that's what the little graphic gives us. So yeah, I'm not really surprised by that. Marco Rubio is rumored to own a revolver of some sort. Scott Walker out of Wisconsin owns a shotgun and a hunting rifle. Dr. Ben Carson gave no details. Ted Cruz, who I personally can't stand, owns a revolver and a shotgun. Jim Gilmore, I'm not necessarily familiar with Jim Gilmore, but he owns a shit ton of guns. So
God bless
I vote for Jim Gilmore.
Yeah.
Jim Gilmore and more guns.
You know what?
Rand
what
Paul
out of this really surprises me. Just like you were saying, Rand Paul failing to give information. I don't know that he does or doesn't. But what is the big surprise for me is Mike Huckabee owning an AR.
Well, he's got to do something to keep them homosexuals off his front lawn.
Well, go be a homo on somebody else's lawn. That's the way he looks at it, I think. Well, not only that, but he looks like he's got himself, if the pictures are believed to be indicative of the types of firearms that he owns, you would look like he's got the Mossberg Persuader.
I actually, that looks like to me in the Huckabee line there. It looks to be like a Benelli M1. Yeah, he's ready for combat. And he's also got a zombie rifle.
Yeah. So Carly Fiorina gets the honorable mention with 6 guns, but owned by her husband.
That'll work. Hey, that'll work. They're in the house, right?
Yeah.
They're in the house. Chris Christie, no gun.
But, that's because he's from New Jersey.
We don't even talk about that big fat son of a bitch. So
yeah, no.
whatever. And
I think
Rick
he's hovering.
Perry,
I think he's hovering very, very low in the polls as well. He's down there with Jeb Bush.
Yeah, and Rick Perry, he owns the Coyote Killer special, and that's actually not a joke. There's a special Texas Rick Perry edition Ruger LCP 388 ACP pistol that has a little engraving of a coyote on it, because Rick Perry used the LCP to shoot a coyote supposedly on a jogging trip. So
my question becomes this: there was a time, and I can remember during the previous Bush presidency, where gun makers went out of their way to make a presidential model to present it to George Bush. Do you think that the shotgun makers who President Obama actually chose for his staged photo op, shooting some sporting clays, do you think that they made a presidential model for him?
Uh, I will. I would like to know. Do you know what that shotgun was from that picture? I
I
couldn't
don't know.
tell.
All I know is it was heavily ported, and it looked
It's
like it
probably
was.
like a 28 gauge or something like that. It wasn't. It wasn't a 12.
Yeah, no, certainly wasn't a 12. I was thinking that it might have been a 20, but just the number of ports at the end of the barrel was.
Yeah, and I'll bet you it probably had one of those like Benelli inertia magnesium and mercury systems. You know,
Yeah.
that gas recoil shock. I'll bet you they did everything to make that thing silent,
Well,
and non-recoiling. Sir, this is no different than a squirt gun.
yeah, and you know the funny thing is that he had he had basically some chokes on the end of it, but the image, the famous image that shows him, you know, with his shooter shades on and the hearing protection, um, that thing looks like it's overcharged with gas. I mean, this is just gas escaping from every point of the
It's got the
barrel.
CO2 cartridge was leaking.
Yeah, something like that. So I think it's interesting because I remember Weatherby made a presidential model for George Bush. Um, you know, I know many presidents before have received, you know, commemorative firearms from gun makers, but I think that's an underserved market in the last 7 years.
Yeah, we need more presidential editions. You know, somebody thanking the greatest firearm salesman in the history of the nation, and we got more proof of that. August 2015 was the biggest August ever for background checks.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
seems that the story that gets put out, you know, every so often that, you know, gun sales are in decline, it gets beat back with the actual numbers when they roll in.
right. So we had 1.7 million background checks for August, and this is the largest number since the background checks began in 1998. Um, we keep on eclipsing these numbers of 1.53, 1.3, 1.6. Yeah, so you know, while everybody well, as the story says, well, every town for gun safety, moms demand action for gun sense in America. Mark Kelly, Gabby Gifford push gun control. Americans are responding by buying more and more guns, and that's really the way, in the end, that everything works. Is you vote with your wallet.
Well, and that's one of the things that, you know, when you see these facts and figures come out, how many of those people are repeat customers?
Well, I would think that a lot of people are. Well, a lot of people who are new to firearms, I think they may buy two or three once they get that first taste of what the firearm is. You know, once they get past the paranoia and the propaganda, I see people buying 2 and 3 guns. You know, after they buy the first gun.
Well, and I think for a lot of people out there, you know, interesting conversation with my wife was in the house the other day. It was, how much ammo do we have for the AR? And that just kind of caught me out of, you know, out of sorts. And I was like, well, is that an invitation to go buy more, or were you genuinely interested in how much I have?
Well, you know, that's kind of a what was her response actually?
When I told her the actual amount, she just said, well, is that enough? And I promptly said, no, it's not.
No, it's not, ma'am. Good answer. Good answer.
No,
Good
it is not. It's just a matter of fact. I know of some stores in town where I might be able to purchase more.
And what brought this up? This is pretty cool. This is somewhere I didn't think we were going to go.
Yeah. So you know, it's.
Let's say the background of this.
I think this is the background
Your
of
wife
this is that
a gun person. She tolerates you having guns. She's always kind of tolerated you having guns, but she's not necessarily a gun gal. And
no,
she's
not
become
in
more
the.
receptive in the last couple of years. But you could say at the beginning of your relationship, she was decidedly anti-gun.
Well, being from New York, you know, there was external factors that clouded her judgment, and after living in California, she came to see the utility of having firearms. This actually came about due to the fact that she was watching coverage on the recent spike in shootings of police officers, and hearing some comments from people associated with the Black Lives Movement, and basically she's just come to the realization that we need to be able to take care of ourselves and our children, and not only that, but when minutes count, or when seconds count, the police are minutes away, just like the saying goes. But that we have to be able to do it if we want to actually be responsible for ourselves.
Wow, Nick, seriously, that's really kind of shocking. That's a great big turnaround from where she used to be.
Well, right, but like I said, when you
it's a large comment on today's society if she finds the need to know how many rounds you have.
Right.
I hope you underestimate, by at least 50%.
Oh, certainly. So the other side of it is that there's not just one type of ammo that I have, and you don't just buy one type of ammo because it gets lonely. It wants variety. That's
right. Hey, we got to give a shout out to our boy Matty in chat. He's listening in the backyard, and he's giving primer time to nature, and he's got a couple of bears that he's watching in the backyard. So, what up, Matty, and your bears?
Well, Michael, bringing that up, I think you've got some somber news. You wanted to go ahead and get that out there. We've lost a member of the PrimerTime family.
Yeah, Hombre 44, listener, veteran in the United States military. He was a door gunner for the United States Army in the Vietnam War, and a listener and a friend of the show, passed on. And I'd like to give our condolences to his family. And yeah, you'll be missed, man. Thanks.
So that's what we like here. We consider our listeners part of our extended families, and we appreciate you guys listening, and we just wanted to pass that along. So big shout out to Hombre 44. And with that, I think we need to probably hit the 4 points on firearm safety.
All right. So every firearm is loaded until you physically and visually verify that it is not loaded. So go ahead and break open that action, drop that magazine out, pull the bolt back, wrench that slide back. Make sure you don't load it again. Number 2, keep that muzzle pointed in the safe direction at all times. Don't cover anything you don't wish to destroy. Rule number 3, know what your target is, know it is. On your target at all times. And the most important rule is keep the booger hook off the bang switch. Do not place your finger on the trigger until you are ready to fire.
And if you're from the New York City Police Department, do that multiple times.
Oh, Jesus. 83 misses, man, and then only once in the... he's going to testify now. Like, if you really look at the numbers on New York, it's something like over the last 10 years, they've paid out like $500 million in settlements for like wrongful shootings.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the crazy thing, because it's not only did they just violate, knowing what was beyond your target or being able to acquire and hit your target, but just think of the number of people who could have been injured in that fusillade of projectiles.
Well, at this time, thank God nobody was injured, but there's been multiple occasions in New York where somebody was where many innocents were shot. I remember one. I forgot. I think it was in front of the Chemical Bank building or something. Somebody had, I guess, a guy had shot somebody he'd worked with. They a workplace shooting. And the guy, I guess, only targeted that guy and walked out. And the police got him as he walked out, and they fired something like, 168 rounds. And they hit like 14 other people. I mean, they killed their target, but they also hit 14 other people.
Yeah, and when you look at the math, I'm a guy that likes to keep things on the positive, right? So I can say that they had a 98% success rate in missing what they were aiming at.
It's seriously scary numbers. I mean, who are they giving a firearm to? And then at the same time, why are they trying to get on your ass for having a firearm? And you're inadequately trained, and you are a danger to the community. Jesus H. Christ, a danger to the community. He wears a badge and receives a check.
Well, it goes back to the same thing in Honolulu, where the cops say that they don't want their departments no longer utilize service pistols to fall into the wrong hands when they themselves are the people that run the background checks on anybody that would want to buy them. So, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's guns for thee, not for, or guns for me, not for thee. That's like the Bloomberg mantra. That's where a lot of the anti-gun studies that we see funded are coming from. It's all Bloomberg money. I mean, he's 6 times as wealthy as Trump, and Trump ain't no friend to the firearm. I don't.
And not only that. So, speaking of former New York mayors and New Yorkers, we also have the we'll call it a random shooting in New York City, which you could also call gang violence, where a member of the Governor Mario Cuomo's staff, is it Mario or is it Andrew? I don't even remember. I think it's Andrew Cuomo. A member of his staff was shot during the West Indian American Parade, and go ahead. This is an opportunity, of course, because it is a tragedy, and both the governor and the mayor of New York City took a few moments to go ahead and opine on the state of the availability of guns in the United States and call for nationwide firearms reform. So instead of saying, "Hey, we've got a problem in the city with people breaking the laws that already exist," we're just going to go ahead and say we're going to chalk this up to the overabundance or the easy to get nature of guns in those areas.
Yeah, well, that's the same excuse they're using in Chicago. It's not the people, it's everybody around Chicago that are causing the problems. And once again, I mean, we had another record-breaking weekend. I mean, there was 8 shot on Friday, and I mean, it was a 4-day weekend, so those numbers yet up pretty. I think it's 56, over this weekend in Chicago. And
yeah, and then, like I said, that brings in
it's not the tool. It's the person using it.
Right, and this is, I think this is where you have to take a look at the schools of thought on how to take responsibility for an action. There's the old school method of manning up, owning up to the things that you do, and either fixing it or working hard to not have it happen again. And then there's the new school method of taking a village to raise a child, and there's absolutely no individual responsibility. Everybody is a product of their surroundings, and if the surroundings or the situations would have been different, none of this would have happened. I think they even used that during the James Holmes shooting trial for Arvada, I think it was Aurora, actually, not Arvada.
Aurora.
So everybody that's ever had a bad day as a child now has what they call childhood mental abuse. So I think you and I, Michael, I think we're good to go. I think we can pretty much get off of anything.
Yeah, no kidding. We are safe. We got a get out of jail free card.
Yeah. So the other thing that I found
they don't ever look at they can't ever mention the fact that every one of these guys is whacked out on some sort of pharmaceutical.
Oh,
and
yeah, not only that, but I would venture to say that their parents probably were while these individuals were in utero. So anybody that seems to think that the way that we medicate our children, the way that we medicate ourselves, doesn't have consequences, I think you're sticking your head in the sand.
It's shown everywhere in the United States at a gun-free zone that's where the shootings happen. That's where the killings happen. And the killings are never actually blamed on the people who live in the gun-free zone. It's always on the item coming in from outside. And it's
that's the Chicago way right there. We never blame the violence on the people that exist in the city of Chicago. No, we blame that on where the bodies get dumped, like in Gary, Indiana.
Right. So
shout out to Gary, Indiana, if you're listening.
Yeah, really. All the gun shows in that area. So I want to change this up a little bit. And a buddy of mine came across an interesting item a couple days ago, and we're coming up on the hunting season, so I'd like to talk about the Winchester 770. Are you familiar with the Winchester 770?
Not really familiar with that individual model. A lot of the Winchester 700 series, I think it's, I think it's the Remingtons have the 700 series and the Winchesters had the 70s. So that's about my knowledge on those, because I tend to stay away from those American rifles.
Okay, well, this is pretty decent rifle. He got the rifle with the scope and 75 rounds of ammo and 30-06 for about $200. Now, that's kind of a screaming deal just based on the amount of ammunition he got and, the fact that it came with the scope. But this rifle is kind of a disposable rifle. They retail brand new for less than $300. And by disposable rifle, I mean it's you can't change the barrel out. The bolt is a three-piece item. It's not necessarily a fine target weapon. It will get you on. It will get you onto the paper. It will get you onto the deer, and it's designed to be maybe shot 50, 70 times a year. 50 times a year, and then put away. First year, and then the year after that you fire it 5 times, and you fire it 3 times after that. It's not necessarily a long life rifle, but for what it does at the price, I think it's something to take a look at. And I do see a lot of them for sale in the used market, and sometimes people just don't know exactly how to price, and sometimes people do. And I see them just the rifle itself in about the $200 range, and it usually comes in 243, 270, or 30-06. I've yet to see one for sale in 308.
Yeah, and I think that if you're going to go for the bare bones starter rifle, I guess we could call it, you could also take a look into the Savage 11 series and the Savage 10 series. They used to be called the 110 and the 111s. Those also come scoped, and they're usually outfitted with a Simmons 3 to 9 power by 40 millimeter scope, and those will probably run you anywhere between $250 and $350.
That's really not a bad deal right there. If you can get out and be in the field for about $400 with a good rifle and with some ammunition, you're doing well. And I think you can do even better in the used market. The used market right now, I'm seeing is more reflective of the changes in the economy. Right now is what I've been kind of noticing. Seems like a lot of toys are going up for sale again. A lot of guys trying to get post Sandy Hook prices, like post immediate Sandy Hook prices for AR-15s. Everything is once again custom. Every toy that they
custom garbage.
Well, every toy that they can possibly stick on an AR-15 they've got, and they're asking $1,600, $1,800, $2,200. So I think maybe the bubble has popped, and these are guys who are trying to get in on the very falling of it. But
these were the buy high customers.
Right. And now they're trying to be the sell high customers, and the worst part is they're trying to justify the rifle where you can buy a brand new rifle for, like we said, $400. You can buy a brand new complete rifle for less than $600.
Yeah, certainly. And one of the things that I think, being that you brought up that it is hunting season, dove. Here in my area, people are out shooting dove already. So shotguns are in very high demand right now. I took a look on Craigslist the other day, and everybody that has a bow is offering it up for a 12 or a 20 gauge.
Right, and I'm going to tell you this: if you trade a firearm that goes bang for a bow, you're a moron. There ain't just no way around it. You just traded a tool of liberty and defense for a hunk of polymer and fiberglass. You are a fool, and you do not deserve to have a handgun or a shotgun or a rifle.
Yeah, I don't think they're trading handguns. I think that's probably a bridge too far.
I see it all. I see it all the time here. A guy's got a bow, and yeah, it's got everything. It comes in a case, and it's got this, that, and the other thing on it. But it's a 4-year-old piece of fiberglass.
Well, not only that, but I think, like I said, you're starting to see things that are indicative of the economy. I'm starting to see a lot more things in terms of bartering. Used to be, hey, I'm trading this for this specifically. Now it's even services. I'm starting to see people trying to, sell their services in order to get their hands on firearms. And I don't know if that's indicative of.
I'm seeing that too. But usually the services are tattoos and like drywall.
See, and out here, it's mostly people doing landscape duty or bush hogging fields or something like that. And like I said, I don't know if that's a sign of the times. I don't know if that means that there's a higher than normal population of people who are not, authorized or able to own firearms, and that's an alternative method for them to try and get their hands on some. I just found it to be real interesting that's what I'm starting to see more and more.
If you look at there's also in a lot of these hunting forums, they'll also have areas where you can buy non-firearm related items, and I'm seeing a lot of people with pickup trucks. A lot of guys with the 2 or 3 year old 2500 Chevy diesel that's got, I don't know, 30-inch tires or something on it. It's a big old tall thing, and he wants $5,000 and take over payments, and then the number of the price of the payments goes out, and it's $650.
Yeah.
And he wants $5,000 on it. So like, he doesn't want to lose any money on it, but he can't afford to keep paying on it.
Oh, certainly not.
So
eventually,
we're seeing
the
lots
bank's
of
going to come
layoffs.
back and get it.
Right, and we're seeing lots of layoffs, and guy could probably walk away from it even on just take over payments. But he's trying to get that that extra $5,000 or $7,000 that he actually put into the truck over the time he had it. Yeah, I don't think that's coming out.
Wow.
But I think that's part of the economy. I mean, you look at it, and ConocoPhillips just laid off 16,000 people. And those are good paying jobs.
Yeah, U.S. Army's getting ready to lay off 40,000. So we're gonna have a bunch of guys who are trained. Man. They actually may be candidates for the New York City Police Department. Who knows?
Yeah, that's all we need is a bunch of guys out there all jacked up on ripets and.
Shout out to the Rip It people. Thank you very much for 15 months in Iraq, keeping me wired.
No, let's just let everyone know. Rip It is the government sponsored energy drink. It does not contain amphetamines, allegedly.
Allegedly, all it does is make you piss in about 3 different colors. You have orange, red, and blue. I don't even know what the flavors are. I'm sure they're like Kool-Aid. The flavors are the colors.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of blue drinks myself.
Yeah. So no, I wanted to go ahead and get out there that as like I said, as we are getting closer to hunting season, make sure that you guys are actually getting a chance to get out on the range, whether or not you do hand loading or reloading. Make sure that you're following your reloading manual's formulas or recipes. Did happen to see a image of an individual that was shooting hot loads from his pistol, and the individual has half of a hand now. So definitely want to go ahead and only use the established formulas that work. Make sure that your measurements are correct and accurate. And if need be, have somebody else do the first shot.
Have somebody you don't like a whole lot pull that trigger. Yeah, okay. Let's tie that one off and like use a string or something.
Yeah, definitely. So, but that's the thing. Dove season is here. A lot of people are shooting 12 and 20 gauge, going through a lot of ammo. And one of the things that I can recommend is that they go ahead and get a waist belt. Something that has the capacity to hold a box of ammo, because it gets pretty old holding a box of ammo and trying to shoot a shotgun at the same time.
That brings up kind of an interesting item. I tried my Bob's belt. Bob from Easy Concealed Carry, who was a guest on our show one time. I used his belt for a shell holder, and I'll tell you what, it worked out really nice.
Oh, that's good. It's good to hear that it worked out. I think that's Bob
So,
Mason for folks that may remember. We had him on
right,
a couple months ago.
www.easyconcealcarry.com.
There you go.
And pretty nice guy. And once I get some money put together, I'll probably buy another couple of his belts.
Cool. So, Michael, have you got any big news that you're willing to lay down on us? I actually happened to score an opportunity to go hunt in a property about 1 hour from my door. So as soon as we get a little bit more work done in terms of clearing a shooting lane, we'll have an opportunity to use shotgun on some deer.
That'd be kind of fun. I'm going to try and get out and sight in, and I'm really kind of excited for bird season to open up. I really like shooting birds.
How far out is it for you guys?
What are we? I think maybe next week.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. I don't know exactly what the date is because, well, I guess I'm the bad hunter. I'm going on private land, and it doesn't really matter what we do out there. I mean,
it's Texas. You know, it's this whole other country.
It really is. I mean, it's not like I don't know. All right, moving along. How about them Yankees?
Yeah. Well, no, and that is one thing that wanted to bring up for those red-blooded Americans who have been going through with the withdrawals. The football season starts up this Thursday, so you know that is going to be another opportunity for those forces of evil to tell you that you know your lifestyle is abhorrent to them, and wait for some kind of scandal to come right back out. I know we just got rid of the Tom Brady Deflategate scandal, so there's got to be something waiting in the wings, and I guarantee you there's going to be a member of a football team that gets charged with a weapons violation or some type of concealed carry violation in the next 10 days.
And Brent Musburger will go on TV and cry.
Not Brent Musburger. You're thinking the other guy.
Bob Costas.
Bob Costas. There you go, Mr. Pink Eye himself.
He will go on TV and cry, and that's kind of interesting that you bring that up. I read an article called "Cut the Cord," and it was relating to how people are kind of like shunning ESPN in particular over its political stance. How it's constantly trying to bring up the social justice issue and things that really don't have anything to do with sports, and always trying to weave that in, and you know the anti-gun platform and. Yeah, people are kind of waking up to it. So, as we say, you know, like the media is the enemy. It ain't run by us, you know. It's that damn Irish ball that's got that one.
Yeah, and like I said, we are looking for sponsors. So shameless plug.
You
right
can
there.
send your check to me in care of me. Actually, do me a favor and send your check to UCY.tv if you're actually gonna like throw some money at us. Send it to UCY.tv. Jules works hard. She gives us this opportunity to like bitch and bullshit about what we actually care about. It gives me the wonderful chance to talk to my brother. I feel like you guys, my friends, my family, and I can't thank her enough for giving us this opportunity to do this. I mean, it's a hell of a lot of fun. I don't care if we got like 12 listeners. You know, this is just it's fun for me.
Well, we are down to 14 now. Now that Hombre 44 is gone, so you know we need all we can get.
But really, I mean, I wouldn't have this chance anywhere else to say what I need, and well, you guys wouldn't get the chance to like just be regaled with our wit and other stuff.
Cool. Well, Michael, I want to say thanks for getting us together, getting a chance to spend the last hour talking about it. It's like every week, it's like, wow, where does the time go? But I want to say big thanks to Jules, thanks to our listeners, big friend of PrimerTime, Oddball, getting out there trying to work out some kinks with his M1A. Like I said, M1A, you know, there's a reason why the U.S. Army didn't adopt it full on, but buy a gun, folks.
And if you can't only buy a gun, buy some ammo. Thanks a lot, everybody. Stick around, UCY.tv, your home for everything you don't get anywhere else. Good.